Welcome to the WealthStack podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Rosic, the Director of WealthStack Content Solutions. Since we recorded this episode, my guest, Andree Mohr, has a new title. She is now the President of Integrated Partners. An article that can be found in today's show notes states that Andree's promotion allows the firm to usher in the next generation of leadership. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. Congratulations, Andree, on your well-deserved advancement. Andree, this is long overdue having you on here, so thanks for making the time and coming on the podcast.
I'm honored you finally asked me, so thank you.
Absolutely. And before we dive into our first segment, I do want to start with your background. And I always joke that this is the hardest question you're going to get this entire conversation, because I want to know what makes Andree, Andree, and how you ultimately landed at Integrated Partners.
That actually feels like one of the easiest questions for me.
You're the first one to say that.
There you go. Great. So I was lucky enough to have two mentors in my life, Ann Schwartz, who is the current Chief Compliance Officer at Integrated Partners, and Peter Kaplan, who is our Director of Insurance Services at Integrated. Very early on in my career, when I was 17 years old, bopping around Boston, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And they brought me under their wing. I interned at a firm back in Boston, and they really taught me so much about what I needed to know to be successful in this industry. And now I always say I've stolen so many nuggets from them that I use across the firm and when I'm working and coaching advisors and CPAs. So started early on when I was 17 doing marketing, and just got acclimated into all aspects of financial services. And honestly, I just loved working with advisors and helping them reach their goals. You know, my shtick is a little bit more on the operational side. So how can we help them be really good business owners? And it's just been a fun journey for me. So when Ann joined Integrated about 10 years ago, she called me and told me about Paul and said, this might be an interesting place for you. I was living in Manhattan at the time, and I was ready to get back to my New England Patriots. And so I said, let's check it out. I met Paul, and, I just knew at that time that together we could do something really special. And, Paul really focuses on people's unique abilities, and he recognized that I had something the firm needed to help grow. And, 1 + 1 = 3 in our scenario. So it's been a journey, but it's people that helped me along my journey. And I'm so happy that last year we brought Peter back to Integrated. So it's like we got the original band back together.
Well, I love that. And so you're one of the rare few that as early as 17 kind of already knew a path that you were going to take. I mean, after sophomore year in college, my parents stopped visiting me and they just said, "Oh God, please finish." So respect that you knew that early on, because when I graduated, I had no clue.
Happens to the best of us.
That's right. Found my way eventually. So if you wouldn't mind though, explain the role of a chief implementation officer, obviously in the context of Integrated Partners, and how it impacts the firm's growth and how you ultimately support advisors.
Yeah, I mean, a chief implementation officer is an interesting title, but it honestly is all about making things happen. And how do we make things happen in the most effective way possible, leveraging technology, the right people in the right places, doing the right roles and responsibilities. So a lot of what I do is look at our operational processes and say, how can we do this better? Where can we right-size people, tech, whatever the case may be, and have that better serve our firm? And then what that means for advisors is I take a lot of what we do at the firm level and then institute it in our advisors' businesses, because we're dealing with the same issues, clients, custodians, new account opening processes, just at a different scale than what our advisors are dealing with. So what's really great for us is that with Paul being an advisor and our CEO, we get to test a lot of the processes that we are wanting to implement in advisor practices in his practice. And then we can really tweak them and ensure that they are exactly what we want for our advisors to provide exceptional service to their clients. So that's one thing that I do, is really help advisors level up their operations. The other thing is supporting the growth of our advisors. And I know we're going to talk about the CPA program in a minute, but that's really what a chief implementation officer does. It's all about removing speed bumps, looking at problems, and finding the right solution for each advisor. Because for us, our model is geared towards the entrepreneurial minded advisor. So we have 200 people doing 200 different things, which is amazing from like a think tank and sharing of ideas perspective. But we want to give our team and advisors what they need when they need it to make their business more successful.
Well, that sounds like a ton of responsibility, the one that makes things happen, but you're obviously phenomenal at it. But I'm curious, as you help firms transition, I would imagine that everything needs to be customized per firm. So I'm assuming that your day to day does not look the same.
It doesn't, but honestly, that's what I love about it, because I would be bored if I was doing the same thing every single day. And in transition, even though you have to take the same steps for every transition to make sure that you do all the different pieces, it has to be customized to the advisor and their business. And that's where I think a lot of people don't spend the time. We spend the time learning our new advisors' businesses and their team members and ensuring that everybody understands their role. That's what's really important. We have a plan that we need to execute on. You know what you're doing, I know what I'm doing, and everybody is just rocking and rolling. We had a protocol transition we just did, and in 2 weeks, we had 800 accounts and almost the whole book moved over because we customized a plan for the advisor and everybody executed flawlessly. So transition is a very emotional time for advisors. So ensuring that they're finding the right partner who's going to spend the time with them to understand their tech stack, their investments, and everything that goes into their client accounts is really important.
Well, 2 weeks, that's also incredibly impressive. So thank you for indulging me and appreciate the background and context. But I want to dive into our first segment that I call Stats All Folks. And I want to keep talking about growth in particular. It's the other popular buzzword besides AI in our industry right now, and it will probably be for a long time. But according to Fidelity, industry average organic growth was hovering around about 3.5% in 2023, but integrated regularly sees an average of something around 12%. What in the world is the secret?
It's the CPA program. And it's not a secret, but it is kind of a secret. How's that?
There we go.
Advisors have always wanted to partner with CPAs. And when we built our firm back in 1996, that was our whole methodology. When you look at business owners and high net worth clients, they're busy people and their plans are not usually coordinated. They have tons of different advisors, but they are not bringing those advisors together to ensure that what they want is being flawlessly executed. So back in 96, Paul was working with CPAs to build wealth management plans and financial plans for clients with all of these different advisors and was seeing it firsthand and said, I think I know a better way. So back then, CPAs were allowed to, Massachusetts was one of the first states to allow CPAs to get licensed to share revenue with financial advisors. And we always say like integrated partners is a description of what we do. We bring together our clients' most trusted advisors to have a better coordination plan for them. So fast forward 25 years, we have almost 200 CPAs in our program partnered with our advisors. And the whole purpose is to work with clients of complexity because we want to ensure that we are making the best decisions for our clients and our advisors. And by working with the CPA, monetizing their most trusted advisor status, we've really been able to do that well. So, it's not always easy, right? Because you're working with another professional. So you've got to spend the time to get to know them, understand their business. But over the past 25 years, we've built such great processes and procedures for working with our CPA partners, marketing the relationship, bringing awareness, because that's really the biggest thing. CPAs are not natural marketers. So bringing awareness within their client base to the problems that we're solving for all of their clients. And that's really how we've continued to grow our business over the past few years, or all the years, I guess.
And as you mentioned, giving the complexity of financial planning and tax services, it's clear that the CPA program really bridges that gap between CPAs and advisors to ultimately benefit the clients. But I'm curious about what that dynamic looks like. Were advisors ever hesitant to bring somebody else in to work with their clients, or are most very entrepreneurial minded and say, yes, the more help I can have, I can't wear all these hats, let's partner. But I'm just curious about the dynamic of it all.
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs are always looking for ways to grow their business. And that's what we love about working with entrepreneurs. So we have always got ideas. What if we test this, try this? But at the core of it, every advisor always says, I recognize the value of working with a CPA because they are the client's most trusted advisor. And even our financial advisors say, if my CPA told me to do something, I would at least be interested and look into it. And so for us, our job at Integrated is making sure our advisors have the tools that they need to really excel in front of these high net worth clients. And we do that through our financial planning department and our investment team and giving them access to experts that can support them as they meet with these individuals. But it's also recognizing that together they are delivering a better service. So when we first meet with our CPA, we go through what we call a confidence builder meeting. And we truly talk about the complexities in their clients' lives that they don't even always see. Because when you are, individually focused on their taxes, a lot of CPAs don't know their client's net worth. And by not knowing that, they're missing opportunities that a financial advisor would uncover for them that even bring additional accounting service work back to our CPA partners. So it's truly like a 1+1=3 relationship. And then on top of that, when a CPA refers a client to an advisor, like I said, we always tell our advisors, don't screw it up. And traditionally, if they don't screw it up, we uncover opportunities that other advisors have not uncovered because we already work with their most trusted advisor. So as we talk to the CPA about that client, we recognize where we can add significant value.
Because I was curious, because a little birdie at Integrated told me that one of the top advisors saw 96% organic growth. So, hearing that this program works so well, I just want to know how that's even possible.
Well, he really got involved with supporting the CPA. And that is what we always say to advisors. When you are new in a CPA relationship, you have to do that confidence builder meeting. You have to help them understand that you are planning first and planning focused with their clients because a CPA is now trusting you with their most important clients as well. So as you get to know a CPA, you have to support them by solving their problems. And this advisor just did that really well. And then, our family office division helps with M&A. And so as we focus on business owners selling their business, and, we believe that the next 10 years is going to be very active in that space. So we've put some support in place for our advisors there. You sell a couple businesses, you work with some high net worth clients, and the numbers start to add up pretty quickly, actually. But it is all about building that relationship from the beginning and having the CPA value what you are delivering to their clients.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, you mentioned M&A, and I know that's something that Integrated is, looking at closely. So I'm curious about your outlook over the next couple of years. Are you still pretty bullish on M&A growth in the RIA space, or are things going to change?
I don't think things are going to change. How's that? I think that a lot of advisors, if you look at the average age of an advisor, is about 60, and there's a lot of great opportunities for them in the M&A space. So I think it will stay pretty active. Our core growth engine has always been organic growth, and we will never deviate from that story because it's so important and so uniquely us. The CPA program, especially as external business owners sell, is going to become even more important to advisors, and ensuring that advisors are working with business owners by coordinating those people, if we're already delivering that to our advisors, it helps them continue to grow. So we're excited about the next 10 years because there's going to be so much activity, not even just in our industry, but external, that it really positions us well for growth.
And I want to dig back into one of your responsibilities as Chief Implementation Officer, as you said, is really overseeing that seamless onboarding of advisory firms and making it a very easy transition to work with integrated partners. So I want to dig in and walk me through the particulars of that process. And I know you alluded to an example earlier, but any other particularly successful transition or onboarding experiences that you can share and what made them so effective?
Yeah, so we focus on four main areas in a transition. You, which means the advisor. So the advisor, their business from a technology perspective, and what they need. Then we look at their business, so their client accounts, their holdings, all of that. Then we talk about marketing. And I think a lot of people miss this one, where you want to tell your story. Why are you doing this for your clients? And you've got to make it all about your client experience. So we always say to advisors, we're going to do more work up front than you think you need to do, because we want your clients to come away from this experience thanking you. And the vast majority of our advisors pick up additional client assets and referrals during this process because we spend so much time on their why and telling each individual client that story. So, we're lucky to have Becca Zoffin and Matt Ackerman to help them craft that story. But I think a lot of people miss the mark on telling their story, having it be, consistent across all their mediums, and even training their team members on what that story is supposed to be and why they are making this change. And then the fourth thing we focus on is the emotional aspect of it, right? It's such a big deal for advisors to leave their current firm, show up at a new firm, sign in, see a big zero there and say, all right, I've got a lot of work to do. And so we talk a lot about, like I said earlier, responsibilities. Advisor, you just have to call your clients and we're going to take care of everything else. This is what your team's doing and this is what our team is doing. And I think that has also really alleviated a lot of concern for our advisors. Their job is just to call clients and tell their story. And our team handles all of the repapering for them. So by giving them that autonomy to do what they do best, I think it helps them excel in that process. But you really have to focus on those four key areas and ensure that you have a very, very good plan in place where everybody understands what they are meant to be doing.
And do you have a favorite, successful transition story or onboarding experience that you can share?
Yeah, I love them all because every experience is different. But honestly, our most recent transition, Ko-Fi advisors that probably saw it in the media, they were great guys and they worked really hard and they recognized like our story is so important and they delivered a great story to their clients. And like I said, it was one of the fastest protocol transitions that we've ever seen. They've got a phenomenal team member and we just focused on, okay, everybody do your job. As a New England Patriots gal, Bill Belichick, I gotta love that. And everybody did their job exceptionally well because we spent so much time on digging into each aspect of their practice. And they knew their business so well, they knew their clients so well that it was easy-ish to make that transition. But we really focused on, how are we going to gather this data, right? And that's, I think, a really important factor. Very specific around, okay, you're going to call a client. How are you going to get the data? How are you going to get it over to us and ensure that we're following all of the SEC rules and protocol and everything like that? And so by digging in and getting so specific on everything, we were able to execute really well. So it's spending the time up front. And a lot of times advisors don't want to do that because they are focused on the exciting reasons of why they're joining a firm, the growth, the CPA program. And they were amazing from the perspective that I said, we're going to get to that. But right now, we've got to make sure that your foundation is strong. And once your foundation is strong, and here, we'll build your house and it will be amazing. But we've got to dig into all of those details to make sure that we can build that right house for you.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And because you're on the WealthStack podcast, I obviously have to ask you about tech. And I know that's another responsibility in your role as well, is staying on top of that, making sure the right tech stack is implemented. So how has the role of technology impacted your strategies at Integrated when it comes to onboarding, training, and ultimately supporting the advisor?
It's changing everything. How's that? It has yet to change everything, but it is on its way to do so. And I think that if advisors are not recognizing that technology is going to impact their business in a way they didn't understand before, they've got to start spending some more time learning. And it's very overwhelming because there's so much technology out there. But if you can leverage tech in the right way, you can take processes that took days and limit them down to hours. And we have done that in the transition phase through leveraging DocuSign and Precise FP and a couple of different technologies that have helped us take manual data entry and automate that through a system. So I think that looking into, all right, how am I going to do this? And then what is the most effective way to do so is really important, especially in a transition, obviously, when you have so many accounts that you need to reopen. But even in advisors' day-to-day life, as we talk about workflow technology, I love Hubly. I think what they're doing out there is amazing. But to me, it's crazy that if you're doing the same process for all of your new accounts, you're manually keying them in, you're typing it in, you're setting up a to-do. People don't want to take the time up front to really leverage a new technology. But I always say, find somebody on your team that you can make the subject matter expert and let them build out something that will completely transform your business.
And as we know in this industry, the technology is changing every day. There's new applications added to the Kitsy's FinTech map. I think there's over 400 now. But I'm curious, is there any tech that stands out to you right now or has you excited, heading into 2024 and beyond?
We're loving wealth.com right now. So, and
Yes.
who isn't, honestly,
I was
right?
gonna say they are everywhere. Those guys are the best.
But for us, one of the things we've always focused on is helping our clients with coordination plans. So a lot of times clients will say, this is what I expect to happen if I or my spouse passes away. And then we do a review of their docs and we say, well, actually, this is what your documents say. And we really uncover a lot of concerns for them. So wealth.com is now a tech that can significantly cut down the time of reviewing clients' documents. And they focus in the high net worth space. So it's a total win-win for us. That's a big one. I love them. I think they're doing a great job in what they've put out and consistently updating and enhancing. So that's great. Like I said, I love Hubly. I think that if you are not looking at automating your workflows, you're going to fall behind because as processes become so cumbersome and you are trying to, especially in a new client onboarding, that's the first experience clients are having with you. You want it to be really great. And if you can leverage a technology that can make it a consistent, excellent experience, it makes sense to spend the time up front to do that. So those are two of my favorite techs.
And it's interesting. I was actually just on a webinar all around generative AI and its use for, advisor business growth, and automated workflows came up because, we looked at it from this funnel perspective where you at the top of the funnel is your data capture, your mid funnels, kind of that generation phase. And then ultimately, once you get those two right, it comes down to the triggering those automated workflows. But at the top, and you alluded to it earlier in our conversation, It's all about data management though. So I'm curious too how you ultimately help and support advisors get that first step right, because you're only as good as your worst piece of data. And ultimately, if it's garbage in, it's garbage out.
100%. And I think that is the biggest challenge for advisors getting into all of these tech systems is their data. Our industry is so disjointed from the perspective that I use this custodian, I'm using this carrier, I have accounts over here, and trying to bring it all together so an advisor can even see a full picture of what they're doing. So there's amazing technologies out there now like Mile Marker and Invent who are starting to help advisors bring that all together. But to your point, it still doesn't solve the problem of like, what about the data in their CRM? Have they even looked at that, refined that at any point? And, maybe you have a better idea than me, but right now we are having advisors download their data out of their CRM and start to clean it up. It's a manual process, but what we're doing during that time is also having them add personalization. Like, what's Shannon's favorite team, her favorite food? What does Shannon care about from a hobbies perspective? And then we can add more personalized workflows back into their CRM when they load that data. And it's just all about holding our advisors accountable. So you get the data out, you manually clean it up. It's kind of a tough process. We rah-rah them through it, we load it back in, and then they're able to see the value. And a big thing that advisors haven't probably done in a while is client segmentation. Who are your top clients? Who are the clients that are going to help you get to where you want to go? And are you even focusing your time there? And a lot of advisors, went through that process a few years ago, but haven't updated that. So their D client in their system might actually be an A client. So going through that process is really important.
All right, you heard it here first, folks, and put in the work up front. I know it's painful, but do it and get it right. But you mentioned segments, and it's actually time for segment 2 of this episode, Andree. Ask Us Anything, where I've gone out to the social universe and asked them to submit questions they want answered by you. And we certainly had a few folks slide into the DMs this week. So putting you in the hot seat here. First question. You recently had the opportunity to co-author and publish an exclusive book, Becoming the Star of Your Practice, with Matt Ackerman. What's the premise of the book, and what was that process like?
So the premise of the book is honestly, how do you as an advisor become the star of your practice? We recognize that advisors get so caught up in the whirlwind of their day-to-day that they don't feel like the star of their business, and they should. So it's all about how do you find the right team, build the right processes around you so you can truly be that star. You can show up to your meetings, perform, and then go home. And that's really the premise of the book. So Matt wonderfully wove in stories of famous musicians to give these really great anecdotes to advisors about how they can properly build their business to become the star. And we've put in music lessons and lyrics, as we call them, which is stories of financial advisors, activities that they can do, because we really wanted this book to inspire advisors to become who they want to be, but then also give them the practical tools to help them get there. So it was a very fun process. Matt and I did this while I was on maternity leave last year. And in the midst of chaos, it was one of my favorite hours talking to him about how we can help advisors become who they want to be.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I fully expect a signed copy in the mail here soon. I
It's on
cannot
the
wait to
way.
read it. Excellent. Love to hear it. One more question for you. Little bit of a pivot to just some overarching industry things that are happening, but somebody submitted a question around the recent fee increases we're seeing. So firms like Orion and InvestCloud have been in the news recently due to their, price increases. What are your thoughts about the evolution of tech in the industry? And do you think more firms will ultimately go a la carte in light of these large players charging more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult place for everybody to be in because I understand Orion's position of why they needed to do this, but it also, as a business owner, it can crush you when you were not expecting these types of expenses to come your way. So I see it from both sides. And I do think that it is kind of a wake-up call for advisors in our industry who have kind of stayed status quo for so long and said, well, this is working, so I don't need to change it. Orion has done a phenomenal job over the last few years enhancing their services, bringing in new services, and advisors are not leveraging those. So sometimes if you're not looking at how your tech has evolved and how that can better your business, you're seeing an increase and saying, this isn't good for me. But you're not seeing that increase and then saying, well, think about all the additional value that Orion has added to me over the years. But it will also make people think, maybe there's a better way to do this. And given the 400 and whatever technologies out there on Michael's list, there maybe is a better way to do that. And I think that that's great, from the perspective of everybody should find the right technology for them. This will help people push them in the direction that's best for them.
Hey, nothing wrong with a little choice, but I appreciate you being put on the spot and your insightful answers. But we have come to our final and what might be my favorite segment, Stack It or Whack It. You've probably seen me in the t-shirt, the ultimate always be branding. So I'm going to throw a few technologies. They're not always WealthTech related, and sometimes they're not even technologies, just random thoughts, especially if I know you. And you tell me if they're essentially worth the hype or not. So stack it or whack it. So it is very clear that you are a Patriots fan. I get it. As a Chiefs fan, I'm hoping we can now ride the dynasty wave. But I have to ask, stack or whack Bailey Zappi, especially if they don't pick up a new QB in the draft. What's going on over in New England?
Stack. Always trust the Patriots organization.
Love it.
They're going to pull something out that'll be amazing.
All right. I love the faith. Another thing I know about you is that you love to travel. So I have to ask about air tags. Stack or whack them? Would you include them in your luggage? Strap them to your kids? How do you feel about things like that?
Well, now that my kids are walking, I'm absolutely stacking it and putting it in their pocket, maybe taping it to their arms. But honestly, in travel, stack it, especially if you're going international, you need it.
I would agree. We certainly do it with our suitcase because you just never know. It might end up, in another country. So we've used it before too. So I agree. All right. 2 stacks. I love it. Andree, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for this discussion today. Feel free to tell listeners where they can find out more about you and what you're working on at Integrated Partners or any other call to action you'd like to share.
Yeah, to learn more about Integrated Partners, go to integrated-partners.com and be on the lookout for our new book, Center Stage, How to Become the Star of Your Practice.
Fantastic. And be sure to like and subscribe to the WealthStack podcast on all major podcasting platforms and follow all things WealthStack on wealthmanagement.com, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Thank you all for tuning in.